Hello, welcome to Stories in Time. My name is Ellouise Schoettler. I am a storyteller. The other day, I was thinking about some stories I had told in the past, and I couldn't remember it. I just couldn't remember it. You know, that's what happens is things come and go. So I'm just telling you that you'll lose your stories if you don't tell them frequently. But I got it. I remembered it, and I thought I would go ahead and tell you. My father was one of 3 boys, but the rest of that 8 were women, girls who grew into be women, and I loved my aunts. Absolutely, they were the most interesting people. They talked all the time about each other and everything that happened to them in their life or the house or down the street or when they went out, you know, became a story that they shared with each other. And this was a story that my Aunt Mary Cobb would tell at Halloween time. She had a ghost story of her very own. And it happened when she was in her middle 20s in the 1940s. She had gone down to Wrightsville Beach with her sister and 2 other friends of theirs. And they were staying at a house on the beach. Actually, it was my grandmother's house, not her mother's, but my own mother's house on the water at Wrightsville Beach. And she would say, we were down there, we were playing bridge, we'd been up late the night before, and I was sleeping in the middle bedroom. Now, the middle bedroom was a smallish bedroom, but it faced out to nothing. The house was at the end of the street, and all that came after that was water. A little bit of land and then water. So there were no lights on that side, nothing. That night, there was only moonlight. It was just shifting into the room. So we didn't have very much that night. I went ahead and left the shades up because who was out there to see me? Nobody. And I went right to sleep. I was sleeping hard. And after I'd been in the bed, I don't know how long I'd been in the bed, how long I had been hard sleeping, but I woke up. And I looked down to the end of the bed. There was a woman standing at the end of my bed. I swear to you, there was a woman standing at the end of my bed. She was tall. She was tall. She had long, straggly hair that from what I could see from the little bit of light that was in the room, her hair was wet and it was dripping. She had on a shirt-waist dress, the belt at the waist. I thought every time I got a glimpse of light that it was blue and white, and it had big flowers on it, and it was wet. And she stood there looking at me. I tried to call out to Catherine, and I couldn't get a word to come out of my mouth. I felt cold all over laying on this bed. I could hardly move. It was like I had been turned to stone. And I lay there and I was just so afraid. So afraid. I closed my eyes and I thought I'll close my eyes and then when I open it, she'll be gone. I did that once and she was still there. I did that twice and she was still there. I was trying to move, trying to get sound to come out so my sister would come in. And then I did that a 3rd time and I opened my eyes and she was gone. Catherine! She came rushing across the hall and she pushed open the door. And without thinking about the fact that we were in a blackout, she turned on the light. Turned the light back off. It was 1943 and we had to black out at night. against the submarines. What's the matter? What's the matter with you, Mary Cobb? What is going on here? Catherine, there was a woman standing at the foot of this bed. She looked real, but I don't think she was real. And she had water dripping off of her head. And she just stood there and stared at me, and I got so afraid. I couldn't even speak. What's the matter with you? Were you feeling all right when you went to bed? Had you eaten something that gave you a stomach ache, or did you have a pickle? No, I didn't have a pickle. What are you talking about? I'm telling you about a dead woman standing at the foot of my bed, scaring me to death. Well, I don't think she was really there. Now, you lay back down in the bed, and I'll sit here with you for a few minutes until you get to sleep. And I lay down in the bed and I closed my eyes. I felt her when she got up, but I didn't open my eyes. And I lay there until I did go to sleep. The next morning, she was gone. Now that's the story that my Aunt Mary Cobb always used to tell at Halloween about her encounter with the dripping woman at Wrightsville Beach. And then, you know, things go away from you. You know, I do remember that every time she told the story, her sisters and my father, her brother, laughed at her, made fun of her about how silly she was and that was ridiculous. Well, about 10 years later, my mama's stepdaddy died. And he was living with my grandmother. He was living there in that house at Wrightsville Beach. So they closed up the house and buried Dad Jack. And then Jim and I took our children back down to the beach when Granny opened it up to clear it out. And Jim and I went down to take a turn at packing things up to help out. Oh, I loved that house. I loved it. It was up on sticks. You know how they build them in North Carolina? They're tall so that they don't get this last hurricane that came up. Anyway, so we were boxing things up, and one afternoon I said to Jim, I said, you know, there's an attic here. We ought to check the attic. And so he pulled this string that was hanging down from the ceiling, and the stairs came down and they folded out. And I said, I'll go up because I don't know what's up there, but I'm at least lighter weight. And so I went up the stairs, and it was just a stage. And the rest of the attic, and it was a big attic, was mostly the sticks, you know, the things that hold the attic up together. And I looked at, well, Jim had handed me Dad Jack's flashlight. And he had one of those 1940s flashlights still. It was metal and it was long, and you had to put about 10 batteries in it, and then it burst forth with light. And so I was holding that flashlight and lighting up the corners and the centers, and then over there on the left-hand side, right over the bedroom where Mary Cobb always slept. And in the corner, near the edge of the house, there was a box, a cardboard box, like from the grocery store. And I shimmied out on the rafters and pulled gently until I got it over. It wasn't that heavy. And I got it over onto the little stage. And I said, Jim, there's something in this box. I'm going to open it up here before I start dropping it down to you. And so I opened the box, and the first thing I took out was a shirt-waist dress that buttoned down the front. It was blue and white, and it had big flowers on it. And there was a little belt around the waist, just hanging in the holders, that little belt. I took that out. And I thought, I've heard about this before. And then there was a pink satin slip, soft, pink, and I took it up and I looked at it and then I folded it back. I thought, that is so strange, the dress and the slip. But then the next thing that was near the bottom of the box was a fox scarf that went around your neck, and the little fox heads were going around it, biting each other. Very popular back in the 40s. And then it hit me. I remembered the story. This was the stuff that the woman was wearing when Mary Cobb saw her standing at the foot of her bed, dripping water all over everywhere. And I said, Jim, I'm throwing it down. And I threw it down so that I could tell him what it was and what Mary Cobb's story was. And then we carefully packed it all back into the box and put it in Granny's bedroom. That's where she had told us to put all the boxes. We stayed a few more days, got a few more things put up, and then we went home, and we were coming back to Washington. A few days later, my mother called me. She had gone down to the beach to do some more packing. And she called me and she said, Ellouise, did you see a box down here did you put another box into Mama's bedroom? And I said, yeah, Jim and I found it up in the attic. And so it was the only thing that was up there. We put it down in the bedroom so that you could get it easy enough. Did you open it? I said, yeah, I opened it. Did you see that, Mother? It's a shirtwaist dress. Looks like a 40s shirtwaist dress. And there's a little fox scarf in it where they're chasing each other with their mouths open. And I said, that's what I put in the bedroom. Do you know whose it is? And she said, no, I don't know who it is. I don't think I've ever seen about it before. But Ellouise, I've heard about it. Do you remember hearing about it? I said, Mama, yeah, I do. I looked in that box and I thought about it for a while, and then I thought, this is the woman's clothes that Mary Cobb talks about when her ghost came to see her. Do you think that's who it is? Well, I don't know, but I'm not going to tell Mama about it. I don't know, but that's what Mary Cobb described when she talked about the watery woman. I did have one thought about this, Mama. What is that? You remember how everybody often used to laugh and make fun of Mary Cobb about her story, about the watery woman? Oh, yeah, I know. They wouldn't listen to her at all. They thought she was a little bit nuts. And I said, well, I don't think she was nuts. I think she was telling us the truth. And there it is. So I've enjoyed remembering that story, and I hope probably you've got some in your family. They may not be ghost stories, but they're always stories to tell. And they come and they go, and it's always fun when they come back. Thank you for coming. I hope you'll come back.